Space Ghost Daily on location in North Merritt Island, just over the Barge Canal, and we are at the Sykes Creek Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant, a critical piece of infrastructure here in Brevard County. We're here with Republican candidate Bryan Lober for District 2. Bryan, welcome today.
Thanks for having me, Giles.
Now tell us why you've asked us to meet you at this Sykes Creek Regional Water Treatment Plant today.
Absolutely, Giles. The crux of it is my campaign has as one of its primary focuses sewer included with other items of infrastructure. It's something that's been neglected by our current commission for far too long, and it needs to be reprioritized and moved up the chain.
Well, obviously we've got a lot of infrastructure problems here in Brevard County, Bryan. What do you think should have been done in the past if we had perfect hindsight 2020 vision? Where has the county commission failed in its duties?
Well, my opponent during his 8 years on the commission, and along with some of the other commissioners, did not prioritize the issue of sewers and infrastructure as highly as it needed to have been. In particular, money was spent on items that really were not critical needs of ours. They were more wants. And it should have been raised in terms of its priority and should have been something of higher importance to the commission.
Well, the Republican primary is just 3 weeks away, and the voters will be choosing between yourself and Chuck Nelson. Should you be chosen by the voters to be the county commissioner for District 2, how will your actions and how will you work with the rest of the commissioners to actually improve our infrastructure with the sewage?
The infrastructure issue, it's a county-wide issue. It's not simply a district-wide issue. It's something where we need to cut our excessive spending in order to have the funds to prioritize sewers where they really need to be. It's something that we have the existing funds to do. We simply need to reallocate them to make better use of them.
So a course of action, an immediate course of action for a man of action like you. Should you be chosen as the county commissioner, what do you think are our first priorities regarding this issue?
The number one concern is stopping the releases into the lagoon and stopping the leaks. The way to do that is fairly straightforward. The county has been doing it to a degree for years, but they've not accelerated it to the rate that we need to see. We need to have pressure tests for all of the sewer lines. We need to have, for the portions of the lines that are exposed visually, we need to have corrosion checks. It's not a terribly expensive process, but it's something where it needs to be done given the average lifespan of a sewer system.
A lot of discussion on social media, on Space Ghost Daily. We hear it every day. People saying, what do we do first? Do we change out the septic tanks and put them on sewer? Do we go after the leaks? In your opinion, what's the most common sense approach?
They both need to be addressed, but the immediate concern for me, the highest priority, is fixing the sewer line. To switch people from septic onto sewer while sewer is replete with issues and leaking into the lagoon is not the way to go about it. Once those leaks are fixed, then we can worry about switching people on from septic to sewer.
I know you've done a lot of research on this topic, Bryan, around the state. How does Brevard compare to other areas?
We're behind. It's unfortunate because we've been a leader in the state and in the nation in many industries. However, with respect to the conversion from septic to sewer, we're far behind. If you look at the Keys, if you look at Sarasota, in many of the other areas, they've successfully switched over from septic to sewer, and it's something that we have no excuse not to do.
Well, Bryan, being a North Merritt Island resident myself, we look out at Sykes Creek every day, and it's pretty depressing. That brown, almost pea soup color Sykes Creek water is awful, and everyone's very upset about it. They're very angry, and they want change. What does it mean to you when you look out at Sykes Creek in the water today?
It's depressing. That's the short answer. Even as a child, I came out here. I enjoyed the beauty of Brevard County. It's a beautiful geography. It's a great location. But to see it continuously deteriorate is something that's unacceptable, quite frankly. One of the reasons that I'm running for this particular position is to be able to make a difference to improve the water quality in this area.
Well, there's talk of a $50 million improvement to a plant somewhere in North Merritt Island. Everything costs incredible large sums of money to build this infrastructure, make it happen. How are you going to handle this budget differently when you're in office to ensure this infrastructure gets improved?
There's a twofold answer to that, Giles. The first is to look at the expected lifespan of a sewer line, whether it's 30 years or otherwise, and budget for that rather than worrying about things in a 4-year election term. The second portion of that answer is it needs to be reprioritized. We have a substantially large budget in this county, and if we cut the wasteful spending that's been engaged in, we'll have ample money to spend on fixing the real critical needs that we have, the infrastructure needs, the sewer needs in particular.
Talk about wasteful spending. What are some of the areas that you feel where this has been done, and how can we improve our government going forward with this?
I'm going to answer that in reverse, Giles. How we improve the government is by electing individuals that share the same values that we have. In terms of specifics, I'll mention one that was brought up at the Florida Today Forum yesterday. My opponent was asked whether he thought the $5 million, or I believe it's actually $6 million AstroTurf in Vieira was a wise use of taxpayer funds. He believed that it was. I absolutely have been opposed to that from the get-go. To put in fake grass at a cost to the taxpayer of $6 million that could have been prioritized and earmarked for sewer or road improvements is an absolute waste. It's just unfathomable to me that anyone could claim that it's anything but.
So the tourist tax is obviously money that is collected from overnight stays here in Brevard County, and some have said, well, that tax is paid by the tourists. What say you about that?
Regardless of who's paying for it, the question is what can we use it for, and what's the best use of it to benefit the taxpayers and the residents within Brevard County and within District 2. The short answer is that there's been a change in the law in the recent past allowing us to use that money for the benefit of the lagoon. I know that my opponent as recently as yesterday at the Florida Today Forum indicated that it was not able to be used in that fashion. It's simply not correct. I apologize that he's not as versed in the law as I am with respect to how we're able to best allocate resources and how to best fund things, but the simple fact is we can use that money to fix the sewer system to prevent these leaks going into the lagoon.
Well, Bryan Lober, it's early in the morning here on Merritt Island. You're up and about, you're going door to door, meeting the residents, getting yourself introduced to the community.
Yes, sir.
You're a successful businessman, a lawyer, doing very well with your business, and you jumped into the foray of politics. Explain that one to us.
I'm tired of status quo government. I don't like business as usual when business as usual involves wasting money that's coming out of my pocket, out of your pocket, out of our pockets. We did not have another option that was a true conservative, certainly not a fiscal conservative, when the other option is an individual who as recently as yesterday indicated that a $5 to $6 million expenditure for fake grass was a good use of taxpayer funds. I can't stomach that. No one else stepped up to the plate to run, and I thought it was my duty to do so.
Well, Bryan, you're a successful local entrepreneur, your own law firm, doing very well indeed. You made this jump into politics, and you made a critical decision to accept no campaign contributions from businesses or stakeholders at all, anybody. You're self-funding.
Correct.
Tell us about that decision.
By the end of this campaign, I will have been in over $70,000 on this race. That's not something that I entered into lightly. It was something I entered into with full knowledge and due diligence having been performed. What I'll tell you is, without having accepted any money from anyone, I'm not beholden to anyone. I don't owe anyone any favors. There's no possibility of cronyism because no one's done anything that causes me to be in their pocket. My opponent, on the other hand, has accepted more money from Democrats, from lobbyists, and from PACs than all of the other candidates in this election, Democrat and Republican combined. That's something I'm proud to say I cannot follow suit with.
Well, Bryan, thanks for bringing us out today and discussing this issue that you feel is tantamount to the success of Brevard going forward. A final message to the voters. We're 3 weeks out from the election. What message do you have for the voters for the primary?
I'm offering a different option for Brevard County and in particular for District 2. I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't believe in wasteful spending. It's one of my highest priorities to get the spending in line. If I'm lucky enough to get the office, I plan on tightening the belt and ensuring that our money isn't wasted on things like AstroTurf at a $5 to $6 million cost. We need someone on there who shares our values. We need someone on there who understands that spending other people's money is something that needs to be done with more diligence and with more thought.